My sister lifted her wine glass like she was delivering a toast and smirked. Crystal clear. So, where are your husband and kids? Oh wait, that's right. You don't have any. The laughter that followed wasn't loud, but it sliced straight through me. My parents grinned as if it were harmless teasing. My fork stopped halfway. To my mouth, frozen. I had spent years covering their bills, bailing them out, saving their house from foreclosure. And somehow I was still the joke at their dinner table. Tell me your city. And the first family expense you paid for without so much as a thank you. When I returned to my loft in Fremont, the skyline outside felt colder than usual. The building was so quiet it seemed to be holding its breath. I tossed my keys into the glass jar on the kitchen counter, the same jar that had been swallowing receipts for years. Each slip of paper was a timestamp of love I'd been conditioned to prove financially. Rent notices, credit card minimums, medical co-pays. All with my name attached. The digital photo frame. Beside it flickered through old family pictures, my parents beaming at Christmas parties, my sister posing in yet another borrowed luxury outfit, and me, always half-cropped out near the edge, never once centered. Never once the focus. It never paused on a single picture of just me. I watched the slideshow 3 full cycles, just to make sure. The smell of burnt toast wafted up from the cafe downstairs, mixing with the heavy silence of my home. I stood there replaying the dinner, feeling the exact second when the air shifted right before the laughter landed. Funny how something disguised as a joke can sting worse than a slap when you've built your whole life around keeping everyone else comfortable. I poured a glass of water and sat by the window. Outside, a delivery truck screeched to a stop, the brakes whining like they understood a truth I hadn't said aloud yet. My hands were shaking. But not from pain anymore, from clarity. They never warn you about harmless teasing. It's not harmless. It's erosion. It starts as sarcasm, then becomes minimization, then turns into reminders that you should be grateful they still include you. Cruelty likes to dress up as family humor. You laugh with them because if you don't, you become the problem. That's the trap, normalized. Cruelty. It starts with laughter and ends with you apologizing for not being numb enough. For years, I thought humor kept us close, but really it kept me small, predictable, pliable, dependable, the one who never pushed back. I looked at the reflection of the photo frame in the window. My sister's face froze mid-laugh. Even the pixels looked guilty. When they laugh first, you apologize second. I whispered it out loud. The rule our house lived by. I don't remember learning it. I just inherited it. Like my mother's coffee aroma in the mornings. Like my father's disappointed exhale when I declined another loan request. The insult wasn't the worst part. The worst part was how familiar it felt. My mother's soft, practiced smirk, done 1,000 times before. My father's low chuckle of agreement, confirmation of where I belonged. They weren't laughing with me. They were reinforcing my place. For years I believed my purpose was to make sure nobody else crumbled. I was the stable one, the backup plan, the safety net, the one who caught every fall. It became so ingrained I couldn't tell where my identity ended and my responsibility began. That's what happens when helping becomes your whole personality. You forget you're allowed to have needs of your own. I glanced again at the jar of receipts. Every tiny folded paper was proof of that identity. Documented sacrifices, each one dated. A version of love that only worked one direction. The frame blinked. Again, another family dinner photo. Another roast chicken. Another Empty chair beside me. I reached over and switched it off. The screen went black, and for the first time, so did their faces. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't replay the dinner conversation. I just sat in silence, tracing the cold condensation on my glass. Something shifting deep inside me, but the echo of their laughter was still there. But this time it didn't hurt. It clarified. They made the joke. I made the life that paid for theirs. And starting now, that equation was going to change. I barely slept. My brain kept scrolling through every transaction I had ever made for them. By morning, I sat at my desk, laptop open. Screen glow cutting across the room like a surgeon's light. Opened my banking app. Then my spreadsheets. Then another. No tears. No questions. I clicked cancel. Every autopay. Every recurring transfer. Every silent drain that kept their lights on and kept me small. Taking your power back doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like numbers disappearing from a screen. Watch the list of scheduled payments vanish. Mortgage, utilities, insurance, emergency fund. Gone. I even opened the shared grocery app, removed my card, and stared at the blank payment window. It looked cleaner without me. Stop making their morning coffee contributions. Call it petty if you want. I call it overdue. Then came the real work. Receipts jar. I dumped it across my table. Tiny slips of my past, scattering like confetti. Tuition. Payments. Medical copays. Just until next. We'll pay you back. You're the only one we can rely on. I sorted them by category. Like a lawyer building a case. By the time I totaled everything, the number sat like poison on the page. $126,400 across 6.5 years. The digits blurred until they stopped looking like math and started looking like memories. The promotion call I missed because I was wiring their rent. The Christmas vacation I cancelled to pay for theirs. The realization hit harder than any insult. This wasn't generosity. This was conditioning. No one tells you the hidden cost of being the responsible one. You think you're helping, but slowly you become the infrastructure holding everyone else up. It's called parentification. When you start parenting the people who were supposed to raise you. It feels like duty. It feels like love. Until it DOESN single quotes T. You become the first call when something breaks, the last to be thanked. When it's fixed, you say yes because you're good at staying. Composed. You tell yourself that good daughters don't keep score. But you do. In jars. In bank statements. In late night balance checks. Being dependable costs you your peace. And when you finally need help, the room goes silent. I leaned back in my chair, surrounded by receipts like evidence. Each one whispered the same sentence. You've done enough. You have always done enough. By midnight, every document was saved. Every account was closed. Every autopay deleted. For the first time, the quiet in my apartment didn't feel lonely. It felt like confirmation. Shut the laptop and whispered to no one. I counted every transfer. Now I count myself. The next morning, my phone exploded with messages. First my mother. You missed the mortgage. Sweetheart, is everything okay? Then my father. The house transfer didn't go through. Call me immediately. Then my sister, predictably. Hey, can you Venmo? Rent is due. I stared at the notifications until the words blurred. Then flipped my phone face down and let it vibrate until it stopped. I assumed silence would feel peaceful. Instead, it felt like a test. How long could I resist slipping back into the role I'd been trained for? By noon there were voicemails. By evening, dozens. Mom, teary, dramatic. Dad, furious, clipped. Brooke, accusatory and demanding. In one sentence. By the end of the week, the tone had mutated from concern to command. You can't do this to us. You owe us after everything we've done for you. That word, oh, lingered like smoke. I had spent years paying what they called love, rent disguised as gratitude, interest payments on affection that never matured. I went through every message, saving them one by one, screenshots, timestamps, voicemails, all filed neatly. Not for revenge, out of instinct. Somewhere inside, a voice whispered, "This isn't over. You're going to need proof." People love to say, "Respect your parents." But respect isn't automatic. Respect is earned. And I had paid mine with time, with money, with silence. The next text came with no greeting, no emotion. "Come home Sunday. We need to talk." No request, a command. I stared at it until the screen dimmed, and my pulse slowed. If a confrontation was what they wanted, fine. I was done playing defense. I whispered into the empty room. Respect is earned by repair, not demanded by rank. Years they used that rank like a weapon. We're your parents. Show some gratitude, but gratitude does not excuse financial exploitation. Love does not require monthly proof of loyalty. I placed my phone beside the jar of receipts and exhaled. The air in the apartment was heavy, but electrified. That night, I brewed a cup of coffee just for myself. The bitterness filled the loft, cutting through every echo of their voices. I thought silence would make me cave. But silence, it turns out, can be armor. The messages kept pouring in all weekend. I read them all, then dragged everyone into a folder labeled evidence. By Sunday, the decision was already made. I wouldn't go there to defend myself. I would go to end it. My phone buzzed again, this time from Dad. "We expect you at 6. I typed one word back. Noted. Then I turned my phone off. For the first time in years, the jar of receipts wasn't the loudest thing in the room. The quiet was, and it wasn't guilt anymore. It was preparation. Monday morning, I was already at my desk before sunrise. The sky over Fremont was grey, the kind that makes you question if Thiessen ever really plans to show up. My inbox blinked with deadlines. But my focus wasn't on work. It was on war. Not the screaming kind. The methodical kind. I opened a new email and typed a name he'd bookmarked months ago, but never thought I'd use a financial fraudotony. Her name was Rachel. Her tone in the phone was calm, surgical, like she'd already seen versions of my story 100 times. Bring everything, she said. Statements, transfers, screenshots, receipts. Especially if there's any document with your name on it that you didn't sign. When I arrived, her office smelled like toner and lemon disinfector. The steady hum of a copier filled the background. Rhythmic, almost comforting. She handed me a folder labelled with tabs. Helic line of credit inquiries. I told her everything. How he'd been sending money for years. How he'd just cut them off, and how the massages had turned from guilt to threats. She listened without interrupting. Then she leaned back and said, "We're not dealing with a familiar dispute. Regina, we're dealing with a potential fraud case. You're not emotional. You're factual. Treat it that way." For the first time, someone said it plainly, not family drama, not misunderstanding. She outlined what we do next. Each step clean and practical. Gather evidence. Pause. All transfers. Consult counsel. And put it in writing. That was her phrase. Put it in writing. It sounded simple, but it felt like armor. We drafted a letter together. A formal 21-day remedy notice. Precise language, polite tone, hard edges. It demanded that my name be removed from all accounts and any misused funds bear paid. The kind of letter that doesn't need shouting because the law speaks louder. When I left her office, the weight on my shoulders had shape now. Paper shape, legal shape. At work, I logged in, ready to drown in user feedback surveys when a red notification flashed on my screen. Compliance alert. Unusual credit inquiries tied to your employee ID. For a second, my stomach dropped, then I clicked it open. Though that note was vague, but enough to make me pulse pound. I Duke. The credit check had come from a marketing agency, one that had recently partnered with a local influencer for a sponsorship campaign. The name on the application stopped me cold. My sister. It wasn't deliberate theft. Not exactly, just carelessness. She'd filled out a sponsorship advance using a saved form from my laptop. The someone I used to pay her rent months ago. Same Wi-Fi. Same outfit. That tiny digital laziness had pinged our internal system. A soft pull, but big enough to flag my employee record. I sat there staring at the screen. Heartbeat syncing with the flicker of my cursor. They hadn't just taken my money. They touched me job. I leaned back in my chair and whispered, "Of course." When I got home that evening, I printed the letter. White paper, black ink, date, signature, deadline. I folded it cleanly, pressed the crease with my palm and slid it into an envelope. Before sealing it, I read it one last time. Every sentence was a boundary with teeth. Then I whispered the 2 lines I'd rehearsed. "Where's your money, sis?" Because mine just stopped flowing and softer. Stadia, a boundary isn't a wall. It's a door I control. The printer light went dark. My apartment was still. It was time to stop being their safety net and start being my own witness. Sunday came faster than he wanted. The drive to Spanway felt different this time. No rehearsed smiles, no mental pep talk to keep the peace, just yet. Steady breath. That closer I got, the heavier the air felt. The house looked smaller than I remembered. Same flickering porch light. Same live laugh sign by the front door. Its paint starting to peel. Inside the kitchen hummed with the same fridge that had run throughout every argument we'd ever had. Mimother was setting the table, her movements sharp and practiced. My father sat at the head, hands clasped like a judge. My sister leaned against the counter, scrolling her phone, pretending not to notice me. "Regina," Mum said, still not looking up. "We can't live like this. The mortgage, the bills. You know how hard it's been." I hung my coat on the back of a chair. "I know," I said evenly. "I've known for 6 years." Dad's voice cut in low and firm. "Don't start. This family depends on you. You've always helped. Why stop now?" "Because it's not help if it's expected," I said. "That's called obligation." Mom's hand trembled as she folded a napkin. "You're being cruel." I met her eyes. "No, I'm being honest." Brooke let out a laugh without looking up from her screen. "Wow, someone's been watching too many empowerment videos. Congratulations, sis. You found a backbone." I told her. Calm. "You know what's funny? You mock me for not having a husband or kids, but you've lived off me like I'm your second parent." Her head snapped up. "Excuse me." "Enough," Mom said, voice rising. But I kept going. "Dad, you always told me to be responsible. I took that seriously. You told me to protect this family. I did that too. But respect isn't automatic. It's earned. And I've earned more than silence and mockery." Dad slammed his hand on beatable. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. "What's your tone? Where your parents?" I looked straight at him, then act like it. For a moment, no one spoke. Even the fridge seemed to stop humming. Then I set the folder down. The sound of it hitting the table made them all flinch. "You want to talk? Fine. Let's talk. Inside were label dividends, tuition, credit cards, medical bills, and finally halak. These are records. I said every payment I've made since I started working. $126,400. You can check the math. Brooke scoffed. You're keeping score now. No, I said I'm keeping proof. My father's expression hardened. This is unnecessary. Oh, it's necessary, I said. Because what happened after that dinner wasn't a misunderstanding. I slid a paper toward him. This is a copy of the home equity loan you took out using my name. The color drained from his face. That's ridiculous. The bank disagrees, I said. And so does my lawyer. Mom's hand flew to her chest. You brought in a stranger to turn against your own family. I met their eyes. You stopped being my family when you used me like a wallet. Dad leaned forward. Voice low. Almost shaking. You think you can threaten us? Not a threat, I said. A timeline. I slide down the paper forward the remedy letter. You have 21 days to remove my name from every account and repay what you owe. If you don't, Rachel files. The silence that followed was thick enough to taste. The clock on the wall ticked like a metronome for guilt. Brooke's voice broke at first. You wouldn't try me. Mom's tears came next. Soft practice, sweetheart. We only did it to protect the house. You know your father's been struggling. I cut her off. And Yao thought I'd clean it up again. You didn't think you counted on it. Dad's shoulders dropped. We're your parents, and I was your insurance policy. I said quietly. Not anymore. Brooke sank into her chair. Eyes glassy. You're ruining this. I gathered the papers back into their folder. No, Brooke. I'm saving myself. It turned toward the door. Mom's voice cracked behind me. Regina, please. We can fix this. I paused at the doorway. I spent years fixing things. You broke it this time. You'll fix them yourselves. Outside. The air hit like cold water. Through the window. I could see them frozen around the table. The folder sitting between them like a mirror they didn't want to look into. For once, I didn't feel guilty. I just felt free. A week later, my phone rang while I was making coffee. The number wasn't familiar, but I knew who it was before I answered. Regina. Rachel's voice was calm, almost gentle. Good news. The investigation's complete. The bank confirmed the forgery. Your name's cleared. You're no longer liable for any of their debt. For a second I couldn't speak. The words felt unreal, like hearing that gravity had suddenly stopped working. So it's really over legally? Yes, she said. Then, her tone softened emotionally. That's up to you. When the call ended, I stood there in my kitchen, staring out the window as the rain turned the city silver. My reflection looked different, lighter samo. I didn't feel victorious. It just felt still. I reached for the fireproof pouch I'd bought after our meeting. The one that held copies of every document. Every receipt. Every message. My new ritual. Not paranoia. I tucked the last file inside and zipped it closed. Later that night, I was scrolling through listings when one photo stopped me. Called my parents' house. The same peeling porch. The same coffee-stand walls listed for sale. A red badge flashing price cut. I didn't feel revenge. Just inevitability. When you build a life on someone else's sacrifices, eventually it collapses. A week later, another message came. This only from Mum. One last dinner before we leave the house. Please come. He hesitated. Then went, not out of guilt, but closure. When I arrived, the house was half empty. Boxes stacked against the walls. The air smelled like dust instead of Sunday roast. Dad looked older. Mom smaller. Brooke sat quietly for once. Her phone face down, busy her plate. We ate in silence. No small talk. No pretending. Just the sound of forks on chipped plates. After dinner, I finally spoke. I'm not cutting you out, I said, but I'm not your safety net anymore. If you fall, you get up on your own. No one argued. Mum just nodded, eyes wet, but understanding for the first time. Silence didn't feel like war. It felt like peace. When I left, I paused at the doorway and looked back. The house that had swallowed so many versions of me seemed smaller now. Almost fragile. Driving back to Seattle, I rolled down the window. The air was cold, sharp and clean. The city lights glittered on the water. Reflections that didn't belong to anyone but me. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into work. Took the promotion I'd been offered months ago. Enrolled in a night course I'd been putting off. The more I said yes to myself, the quieter the noise around me became. One evening, I poured a glass of wine and sat by the window, watching the skyline blush under the setting sun. The receipts jar was gone. In its place was a single folded slip, the first bill I'd paid entirely for me. I raised the glass to the city, to the reflection, staring back. "Torseeps," I said softly. "And to finale being Regina, not the backup plan. If you've ever been the one holding your family together while they tore you apart, tell me where you're listening from. Tell me the line you had to draw. And if this story gave you the words you needed, share it with someone who's still learning that saying no isn't cruelty. It's self-respect."